If you want to know what it takes to overcome low self-esteem, and not just overcome low self-esteem, but to own it, to present yourself, your true self in the world with conviction and with confidence, then watch this video, because I'm going to unpack my experience as a counselor in private practice and my time as a counselor in the NHS and for a low-cost agency, where I have seen low self-esteem come up again and again with my clients in many different forms. And it affects people in so many different ways because the root cause is often different. So in this video, I'm going to unpack a summary of my thoughts and my experience in terms of how you can understand and own your self-esteem and overcome your negative critical thinking that's likely contributing to it. Are you watching this ever having doubted yourself? I have. And I don't really think that means you have low self-esteem. But the question for me is, how often do you doubt yourself and what impact does that doubt have? Because if it starts interfering with decisions you're making in your life or with how you feel about yourself on a regular basis, then it's likely that that's what's causing the low self-esteem. And for me, low self-esteem can affect you in many ways. It can mean that you may not be able to make a decision. You may not trust yourself to give an opinion. You may feel there might be a fear of judgment, a fear of criticism from others by just saying how you feel. You might want to avoid confrontation. You might be afraid of offending people. That's also a part of low self-esteem, otherwise known as like the people pleasing. It may be that you say yes to people at the expense of yourself. You just don't feel comfortable saying no. So all of these things contribute to low self-esteem. And if this is your experience, I want you to keep watching, because I have 3 questions I want you to ask yourself. Do you find yourself going out of your way to do things for others? Now, I want you to pause this video and write down what comes up for you. Just ask yourself that question. Do you find yourself going out of your way to do things for other people? Now, think back to a recent time you helped someone. What were the circumstances behind that? How do you feel now when you're writing about it? Do you feel you went out of your way to help someone? Perhaps you might even feel a bit of resentment towards them because you didn't get the response you wanted back from them. You didn't get the attention or validation you wanted. And check out my video on resentment if you suffer from resentment, which is a consequence of having low self-esteem. Do you avoid sharing how you feel with others? Perhaps out of fear that it might cause an argument or it might be confrontational. Now, this is a common one, the fear of confrontation, that if you were to share your opinion, people may not like it, people would disagree, or people may even dislike you. And that would be a problem if people dislike you for sharing your opinion, because me being disliked is a threat. It means if I'm being disliked, then I am not worthy, I am not good enough. And of course, you're not consciously saying that to yourself, but the idea of someone disliking you is enough for you to feel very uncomfortable. You have to be on people's good side. You have to please them. You have to do things for others. You have to go out of your way to do things for others. And including in that is not going against others' opinions. So someone might ask you, what do you want to do? Be like, oh, I don't mind, whatever you want. I'll go with it. You're fitting around other people's needs rather than people fitting around your needs, or you asserting what your needs are. You may not even know what your needs are. So that's, again, another question that comes from that. Like, if you don't know what your needs are, why? You're also a human being. You are 50-50 in a relationship. Why is it about the other person? So ask yourself that. And the fear of confrontation is a symptom of that inequity, whether it's in your relationships, with friendships, at work, whatever it is. Do you put other people's needs first? Do you expect anyone to do things for you? Do you expect people to be there for you? Do you expect anyone to be there for you without you doing something in the first place. So it could be listening to you, supporting you, helping you. You may want those things, but do you expect it, or do you ask other people to be there for you when you need them? Maybe you feel you don't need anything from other people. Maybe you feel that you've always relied on yourself to get by. And again, this could be a sign that you've internalized your own struggles and own doubts and relied on yourself rather than feeling, I guess, the safety of asking someone else for help. Because if I ask someone for help or support, what does that mean in terms of my image? What does that mean in terms of me sharing my vulnerability? Have you ever felt safe asking anyone for help? Do you feel you need to go at it alone and instead be there for others? So those are the three core questions I want you to ask yourself. So just to summarize, number one, do you find yourself going out of your way to do things for others? Number two, do you avoid sharing how you feel with others, perhaps out of fear that it will cause an argument? And number three, do you expect anyone to do things for you? You may want to, but do you expect it? Or do you kind of shy away from it and not expect them to be there for you? Now, there are so many more questions you could ask yourself because low self-esteem manifests in so many different ways. And if you're watching this and you feel you have low self-esteem, to get to the bottom of it, you need to explore different solutions depending on what the root cause is and how long you felt that way. So let me share my experience so far of 3 potential solutions for you. Number one, put yourself first. So in a weird way, this is the end goal, but it's also a daily action. You cannot work your way to this. So while you might think, well, me putting myself first is the goal. Yeah, it's a goal, but it can only be achieved through daily action. So there is no other way of achieving that goal other than through action. So for some people, for some of you watching this, it might mean starting to say no to people. While this sounds easy, it's not. It's actually very uncomfortable to say no to people. It sounds quite harsh when you say no, especially in this society, especially in the UK where, saying no is not really encouraged in many places. It's kind of seen as rude or selfish. You have to be there for other people. But really, saying no is the hallmark, not just of having kind of good self-esteem, but really of success. If you look at the most successful people, and by success, I'm talking now about business success, they say no. The business leaders have to say no in order to preserve their time and energy and only focus on the things that matter the most. And so it's the same principle of low self-esteem. If you have low self-esteem, are you saying yes to others too much? Because by saying no, you are carving out the time and space and energy to invest into yourself because you are worth it. But do you feel you're worth it? That's the crux of it. Maybe you don't feel you're worth it, and maybe that's why you feel you have to say yes to others. Because if I help others out and they praise me, I feel good from their praise. So essentially, you feel good through other people's actions and words. It's not generated within you. Stop relying on others for approval. So I don't mean that you should cut people off. I don't mean that you should become distant, but just ask yourself, do I get a thrill when other people approve of me or praise me or validate me? It could be that you overshare with people. Maybe you give people too much information about your life. Do you overshare? So this is linked. So first of all, oversharing may be linked with an insecurity you have that you are making the right decisions. So people who overshare will tell someone everything about what they're doing because they're actually looking for validation about what they're doing. So they might describe their business plans, what they've done towards their business plans, what they've yet to do. They might hash all of this out, but underneath it all, they're actually wanting feedback on, am I doing the right thing? Do you think this is right? And I'm not talking about a kind of coaching session where you're constructively looking at goals. I'm talking about from a more emotional perspective, that you're wanting a validation and assurance from someone else that you're doing the right thing. And it could be oversharing on personal matters too, that you're looking for validation, that you're looking for approval because you don't trust yourself. Because you can't generate your own sense of worth from within you, you look for it from other people. And the trouble is, you are relying on the external rather than yourself. And it can lead to oversharing. So ask yourself if you overshare, because that could be a symptom of whether you seek approval from other people. Your own sense of what is right and what you should be doing is reflected through what other people say and not from you. And that is, in essence, what low self-esteem is. That's one of the main forms it takes, is that you have to seek approval from outside yourself rather than from you, rather than being confident in who you are. So do you doubt who you are? These are all questions you need to ask yourself. So start trusting yourself more. And there is no better way to trust yourself more by taking action, taking risks, and seeing the results. Because it's only by taking action and taking risks that you will see the results and realize it's not as bad as you thought in your head. The build-up you have in your head is a result of the emotional turmoil that has been stored by years of doing what other people say or not listening to yourself. So the thought of doing something for yourself and taking risk must be quite frightening. Could be quite frightening because you think, I'm never going to achieve it. I'm going to fail at it. I'm going to be miserable. I better not go for it. But how do you know? How do you know until you do it? So really, where's that information coming from? There's no concrete evidence to back that up. And even if you tried something and failed, what's to say you're going to fail again? You learn from the failure, you adjust the action, you repeat until you get the desired outcome. And the people who are most successful in this are people who do not give up, who ruthlessly and relentlessly pursue their goals, irrespective of how many times they fail. That is what accounts for people being successful in different walks and measures of life. And the third solution I want you to think about and explore is to be comfortable with the uncomfortable, to venture outside of your comfort zone. I want to share a bit about this because my work as a counselor involves this very thing, dealing with the unknown. I step into the unknown every single time I have a client session because I have no clue what my client is going to say in that session. I have no clue, and there's no script. Nothing's pre-planned. I'm going with the flow. I'm being in the moment with that client to process and talk about what they're bringing into the session. So they could say anything. I've had cases where a client session has finished. This was early in my training. A client session finished and they were literally leaving the door and they said, "Oh, I'm not coming to the next session anymore." As they're leaving the door and as I have my next client waiting in the waiting room. So that's happened. That was unexpected. I've had other clients who have come to the session and told me that they just tried to kill themselves, that they'd crossed the road and hadn't looked at whether on the main road and didn't look for traffic. They just crossed. They walked onto the road, hoping that a car would hit them. If I don't trust myself, if I don't trust my ability to harness the knowledge and expertise that I had gained up to that point and apply it in the session, I'd be in a bit of trouble because I wouldn't know what to say. And it would show that I'd be nervous, I'd be panicking. But when you have a client who said something like that, that's not really helpful to panic. But I just trust myself that the moment is all I need. I don't need to have the answers all the time. And I've lost count of how many times I've said to a client, I don't know what to say, because I've been taken aback by what they've told me. And I'm just coming from a human place to tell them I don't know what to say. What you've said has really impacted me. And we just share that moment together. And then through nature or some force, the session just rolls on and you get a different dynamic from just being present and from just holding your hands up, saying, I feel stuck. Do you feel stuck? And it's that thing of venturing out your comfort zone. It's only by stepping out of your comfort zone that you will grow. That's it. So start being comfortable with the uncomfortable. Step outside your comfort zone and see what happens. And you can achieve more than you think you can. You can achieve more than you think you can. You might not feel like it, but that's the point. It's not you. I'm telling you now, this feeling you have of feeling low about yourself is not you. It feels like you because you're feeling it. I'm not denying you're feeling it, but that's not who you really are. Because I firmly believe human beings are not naturally born to feel bad about themselves and low. We've been taught to feel bad about ourselves through indirect means in society as a kid growing up, because our feelings weren't validated, we weren't trusted, we've been conditioned to essentially keep our things, our opinions to ourselves because our opinions are wrong, it's not acceptable for whatever reason. And we've learned as a defense mechanism, keep this to yourself. Don't start a fight. Because it could be you've been in a childhood or had past experiences where that's been quite traumatic. So you've learned, play it safe, keep it to yourself. But now you're an adult, and that same defensive mechanism that kept you safe is now interfering with your life and with your ability. And the only way out of it is to take action, to acknowledge it, and to take steps to address it. Take action, take risks, step outside your comfort zone. And I want to finish by saying that low self-esteem takes many forms and is often disguised. So I would encourage you to seek counselling to explore this further. And I would like to offer you a free consultation to explore this further, where I'm going to help you, and I'm confident of helping you overcoming low self-esteem once and for all. Thanks for watching.